How's it going, everyone? This is Tom of redmondpie.com, and I have in front of me the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the iPhone 5S, both very much vying for the same space and all of the market share in the mobile technology industry, so it seems only fit to put them through a full comparison and see who comes out on top. This is the iPhone 5S versus the Samsung Galaxy S4. First of all, I just want to mention that we're not actually going to be talking about hardware in this comparison, due to the fact that we've already done a physical hardware comparison, and that will be found in the top bar of the description if you want to check out that. Without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so how this is going to work is I'm going to outline a feature, I'm then going to kind of talk about how each device handles it, and then I'm going to kind of assign a winner to each of the sections. So the first is user experience, and kind of just user interface that you're presented with. This Samsung Galaxy S4 is currently running Android 4.2.2, as you can see here, and then this iPhone 5S is running iOS 7. It's not on iOS 7.0.1, but that's a very, very minor upgrade, so it shouldn't be a problem. Both iOS and Android feel like very polished operating systems now. With the amount of power behind the Android in the Samsung Galaxy S4, it's a very fluid interface, along with the iPhone 5S being extremely quick on iOS 7. You're going to find almost no lag on the iPhone whatsoever, and the only time you really encounter it on Android is when it runs into kind of has a funny 5 minutes, or you're typing. Occasionally gets a little bit of bad typing lag, but generally the interface on both phones is extremely good, and more often than not you won't be able to pick a winner in this category. After iOS 7 came out of its beta stages, it's definitely caught up with Android in terms of animation fluidity and just usability in general. Now both of these phones have extremely good user experience. This round is most definitely a draw. So the new iPhone 5S features a new Touch ID feature, which allows you to unlock your finger simply by scanning the home button. On the S4 you have no such feature. You of course get a normal pin and pattern, and there's also a face unlock, but that's more of a gimmick. As you can see, the Touch ID feature actually works extremely well. You simply just touch your finger onto the home button, and if it recognizes your finger, you set it up in the settings, and it just goes ahead and does it just like that. It's very, very cool, and to authorize purchases and things, it's extremely useful. You can go onto the App Store, and if you were buying a free app, or buying or downloading a free app, you can just scan your finger instead of entering your passcode, and the S4 doesn't have anything like this, so that's definitely a win in this department for the iPhone. Next up is customization options, and now we are seriously in the S4's territory. Android in general is an extremely customizable operating system, whereas iOS is very set in its ways. You can't alter almost anything with the iPhone 5S. I mean, you can alter things like wallpapers and things like that. However, with Android, you can just download a launcher off of the Google Play Store and essentially just change the look of your device all in one fell swoop, and then customize it to your liking. On an iPhone you need to jailbreak it, and there's no jailbreak available even for the iPhone 5S as of yet, so that's definitely a win in the Galaxy S4 for customization. Okay, so next up, let's cover off some benchmarks. This is SunSpider. This is testing the browser capability in Safari, and then the built-in internet application for the S4. Basically, this tests how long certain aspects of web compiling take, and then the lowest score is best. So, for example, the iPhone 5S you see just finished there, whereas the S4 just keeps on going. I'm going to cut that out. And after another 10-15 seconds or so, both phones were finished, and then the results of the benchmark showed that the iPhone 5S scored 405 milliseconds, whereas the Samsung Galaxy S4 scored 1087 milliseconds, so over double the time the S4 took for the browser compiling benchmark. Next up is Geekbench 3. This is a program, a very famous benchmarking tool for computers and also mobile devices, and this tests various aspects. It's taking the RAM capability and the processor capability as well, and it will kind of compile them into a final score and show you how powerful, or how theoretically how powerful your device you've got can be. The iPhone 5S sports a 64-bit processor, which is the first we've ever seen in a mobile device. Now, it is sporting only a gig of RAM. We're really going to see the advantages of 64-bit when you go above about 4 gigs of RAM, because the main advantage is memory management. But as you can see there, the iPhone 5S is finished with the benchmark. The S4 takes actually quite a lot longer, like we also saw in the SunSpider test. I'm just going to cut quickly to the results, and there we'll see that the iPhone 5S scored 2,557 on a multi-core processor score, and the Samsung Galaxy S4 scores 1,841, so definitely respectable scores all around. And to be honest, you're not going to see a ton of difference here in real-world performance, but the benchmarking definitely goes to the iPhone. Okay, so moving on to some real-world examples, here we're going to be doing a boot test between the iPhone 5S and the Samsung Galaxy S4. I powered them on at the same time. I'm not 100% sure what's going to happen on this one, because I have an O2 version of the S4 here, so I'm not sure if that animation is taking up extra time or whatever, but as you will see in just 1 second, the 5S is slightly quicker than the Samsung Galaxy S4, but it's only about 3 or 4 seconds, but again, that round does go to the iPhone. Okay, so now let's do some launch tests. So I'm going to be using either the same application or the respective application. And as you can see there, the camera apps were both incredibly quick to power up. That was a matter of almost less than seconds, actually, so very impressive on that front. Both of these phones do have them quitted out. There we have the phone application, ever so slightly quicker on the iPhone. And here we have Chrome, just tap that. And again, ever so slightly quicker on the iPhone, but it is incredibly marginal, and to be honest, I give this round a draw. Okay, so a good segue from there is to actually do some browser tests, and there we're loading redmondpie.com, and as you can see, it was a very, very quick load on the S4, and slightly slower on the 5S, but also very quick. Let's go ahead and load up something like apple.com. Let's just try that. Type it in and go there. So again, quicker on the S4, but only slightly. So interestingly, the browser test that we did earlier would indicate that this should have been the opposite way round, but the S4 is actually superseding the iPhone 5S, albeit very marginally. Let's try Facebook now. Just load up facebook.com. And there we go. So again, slightly quicker on the Galaxy S4, so that's a win for that. Okay, so now let's chat quickly about the display, and this is a 1080p video clip. Strangely enough, my camera started flickering the S4 screen, so hopefully you guys can ignore that. I'm not really sure what the issue was with this clip or something. But the display of the iPhone 5S is 1136 by 640, and that comes in at a pixel density of 326 pixels per inch, whereas the S4 is actually a full 1080p display, which means it retains a ton more detail, and it has a pixel density of 441 pixels per inch on a 5-inch screen versus the 4-inch screen of the iPhone 5S, and the screen by far is far better on the S4. It's just so much more detail, so this definitely goes to the S4. Continuing through, let's have a look at some gaming performance. This is Riptide GP2, probably one of the more intensive games available on the App Store at the moment. At least it is both for Android and iOS, which obviously is a game that you'd need to compare for both. So the 3D rendering on the iPhone 5S, and in all fairness, the Samsung Galaxy S4 as well, they're just both fantastic with this kind of processing. Hopefully we'll see some games in the future make more use of the 64-bit architecture in the iPhone 5S, but for now, it's a definite draw between the Samsung Galaxy S4 and the iPhone 5S in terms of gaming performance. Finally, let's talk a little bit about these camera software available for these phones. We'll do another video comparing all of the actual phone cameras themselves, but as you can see on the S4, there's just an absolute ton of different profiles and settings you can play around with, whereas on the iPhone there's only a few, maybe a few more decent ones. It just depends on your personal preference, to be perfectly honest. So for example, you can do things like cut people out, create essentially GIFs, you can stitch photos together. There's an array of different things that you can do with them. There's an option to take a bunch of photos and it then picks the best one. This one removes blemishes and things from your face. There's just an array and an enormous amount of customization in the camera app that you'll be able to find on the S4. That in turn with the iPhone 5S, you also get a large amount of options. So if you scroll along, there's the first option is slow-mo. So this shoots in 120 frames a second, which the S4 doesn't have capacity to do at all. But that being said, there's a ton on the S4 that the iPhone doesn't do either. As you can see, this is a really weird frame rate. picked up by my camera there. And then if we scroll through sideways, you get the standard video mode. Both phones shoot in 1080p. You get the standard photo mode. You get live filters. You get the square mode. A panoramic mode as well with the iPhone 5S. Both of these camera apps are incredible, and the software they supply is absolutely excellent. I would say it's too subjective to actually pick a winner because both do have lots of different options, but it really is down to personal preference on what you actually prefer from a smartphone camera, so this one's a draw as well. There we have it, guys. I think that pretty much wraps up this comparison. If I was having to choose personally, I would go with the iPhone 5S. The Samsung Galaxy S4 build quality just really isn't up there for me. Again, we discussed that in the previous video, so definitely check that out. If you have no experience with Android or iOS, I would say go for the iPhone as well. But if you have experience with Android and you are a fan, maybe the S4 is the phone for you. Definitely let me know in the comments which one you would go for. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will catch you next time.